Hey guys, JV here sharing some beautiful 60 FPS gameplay from the For Honor closed beta that went on last weekend. And before we jump in, I just want to let you all know that I plan to stream tonight here on YouTube, but also on Twitch simultaneously. And don't worry, this isn't a stream that's going to disappear. It'll be uploaded immediately after here on the channel. I'm going to be playing Mass Effect 2 and starting a playthrough. So if you want to join me, it's going to be tonight at 6 or 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you want a more up-to-date kind of when I'm going to start, you should follow me on Twitter at JV2017. I was lucky enough to have Ubisoft send me a code, and I was able to play for maybe 5 hours, and I would have played a lot more had I not been sick with the flu. But luckily, I grabbed some of this gameplay on my PC in my playtime. Originally, I saw this game at E3 last year. I was able to play it, which was awesome. I fell in love with the combat immediately. I was very surprised by how good it was. And I'm happy to report that after this closed beta, the game is essentially the same. It seems like no major mechanics have been changed, but there's a lot more polish and there's more features to go around. So let's talk about this closed beta. This one featured 9 classes to play with, 3 from each faction. As you know, the factions are Knights, Samurai, and the Vikings, and I believe each faction will get an extra class in the full game. They weren't in this beta, but the full game is coming out 12 days from the time I'm recording this, so that's just right around the corner. So within each of the factions, you essentially have an easy, moderate, and difficult class or advanced class, and I guess the 4th class is going to be super advanced, maybe another hybrid. We'll have to see about that. My playtime was only with the Knights faction, and I split my time between the Warden and the Conqueror. So from what I could tell with my playtime with the Warden, I just really love the longsword knight kind of gameplay and that sort of archetype, and it seems very easy to play. After a little while, I learned that you could kind of shoulder rush people, so I was doing that, knocking people down and just swinging away. It is kind of a slower class, but it does seem like the first class with each of the factions is kind of the slower, easy to work with, easy to learn hero. Shortly afterwards, I unlocked the Conqueror, which is the one with the giant shield and the medieval flail, and it's just a territorial monster, and there is a lot more to learn with this class. I mean, it really did step up an entirely new moveset and all of that, and like I just said, each class has unique movesets and abilities that you won't find on other classes. They can do things that are very unique to their own kind of playstyle and play type. And you have to go through and watch these little tutorial videos that are in the game, which are surprisingly really helpful. I mean, they really are. I feel like you don't find this in a lot of these kinds of games. And I'm really surprised at the amount of depth with each of the classes. I believe the beginner classes are called Vanguard classes. Those are the ones, like I said, the Knight, the Warden is very easy to learn. But once you get beyond that, there is a lot of depth, and you do need to know what you're doing. You can't just throw on the Peacekeeper Knight class and expect to be really good in a 1v1 duel. It just doesn't work like that. So you have to read, you have to learn, and you have to know what you're doing and what to counter. I think that's going to be the big thing with For Honor, is going through, playing with each of the classes, knowing what they can do, and then applying that to each 1v1 battle that you inevitably will get into. The nice thing about the Conqueror is that you can also knock people down, but something very unique about the Conqueror is that you can swing the flail indefinitely, forever. Actually, not forever, it'll drain your stamina, but once you release it is a very powerful move, and the timing is random. You can do it whenever you want, and so you can surprise your enemies with that, and I did that a lot. I just smacked the hell out of people with my medieval flail. And then also with the Conqueror, you can hunker down and block damage from everywhere, which seems very like overpowered, right? But it drains your stamina very quickly. So you can only really hold that for 1 or 2 shots and then have enough time to run away if you're overwhelmed. Some final notes on combat before we move on. I really think this game is about countering your opponent, learning what they're going to do and, you know, applying your moveset to their set and seeing where you can succeed and where you need to watch out and just block or move away, roll away, whatever it may be. And so I think this is going to be a thinking's man game in that sense. Also reflexes involved in there when you're trying to block certain directions and all that, but I just love the combat of this game and I can't wait to play more. Like I mentioned, combat was the big takeaway I got from playing the game at E3, and so everything else from here on is relatively new to me. I was very surprised at the gear system and kind of the overall inventory, ability, loadout system in this game. Every time you finish a match, you have a chance of getting a new piece of gear, which you can go to and actually equip on your hero, on your class. Each individual class has their own set of pieces of gear, obviously. Like you can't, use a flail on a warden, for example. You can only use swords. But with the warden, you can customize the hilt, the guard, and the blade itself. With the conqueror, you can customize the actual head of the flail and also the handle. So there's a lot of different pieces there. And then you can go through and customize cosmetic things like what color, what standard you're having, what kind of pattern you've got there, what kind of symbol you have. And there's an overall progression there. As you rank up with that specific class, you'll unlock more to mess around with. And so again, super surprised at that. And also there's daily and weekly challenges that are connected to factions and whatnot. And so let's kind of go into that. This game is really revolving around an online connected combat thing where you're always fighting other factions. So in the beginning of the game, it does ask you to choose a faction, but I believe you can change. I don't know if there's a penalty. I think you can change around your faction, but you're always fighting the other factions. Everything that you do kind of it plays a role in the overall battle between these three factions. And each of the game modes that you can hop into represent different fronts of the battlefield, which I thought was a clever thing. So if you hop into 1v1 duels, if you win that as a knight, for example, and you beat a samurai, you're gonna push back the samurai's threshold in that, front of battle, which is very cool. So in the closed beta, there's 1v1, just straight up 1v1, and I thought those were really, really fun. I'm probably going to spend a lot of time in there. Then there's 4v4 Dominion, which is like a domination game type. We'll talk about more of that in a second. And then there was 2v2s. I found all of these game modes to have their own kind of strategy and charm. They weren't just different versions of the same thing. Once you add another person, literally going from 1v1s to 2v2s, it changes up a lot of what you're going to do. You can gang up on one person and get away from the other person on the other team, or you might find yourself being ganged up on. And so there's different strategy with each mode, which I found to be very pleasing. 1v1 and 2v2 are definitely more bare and basic compared to Dominion, and I think they're great modes to kind of practice in before you bring, your real skill into Dominion, which is this epic battle. It has a little cutscene at the beginning and the end with NPCs just running at the enemy, rushing B flag, and it's essentially domination. That's the basic game mode. But you've also got these minions running around having their own battle, and you just one-shot all of the enemy minions. But it's very cool to see this large-scale battle going on and kind of rallying behind these minions. Very much a Smite kind of feel, slash Battleborn, slash whatever kind of MOBA game you want to compare this to that does have minions in it. So another thing I was super impressed by is the little chat commands that you can send out for your team, and that's something that you see in games like Overwatch, where you can say certain stuff, give certain commands if you don't have a mic or whatever to communicate with your team. That's in this game as well, something I totally didn't expect, and I definitely appreciate. So you got little things, you can say little things like good fight, thanks, oh god, people can spam thanks in this game. I haven't run into that problem yet. But you've also got objective-based ones too, like we need to go get B flag, and that'll flash on the screen. That is invaluable in a team-based, multiplayer game where you may not necessarily have mics and be able to communicate with your teammates. So it really gives you every opportunity to be a team player and work together with your team. Some final thoughts before we wrap up the video. There is going to be an open beta for this game next weekend, I believe. So it's been 3 weekends of Ubisoft betas for me. For Honor, and then Ghost Recon's about to start, and then For Honor again. But I'm very excited to play more. I can see myself really getting into this game. There's so much progression. I think that's exactly what For Honor needed in order to actually have legs and have people play for an extended period of time. I think this could have easily been another bland Ubisoft title, but no, I think they have a lot to work with here, and the game is just gorgeous. I haven't even talked about that. The game is beautiful to play, it's beautiful to look at, and I was just shocked at the amount of detail and the skyboxes and the backgrounds of, like, looks like the Alps or whatever it may be, the European Alps. It's beautiful. Anyways, those were my thoughts on For Honor and this closed beta. I'd love to hear from you all in the comment section below. Are you planning to get For Honor? Maybe after watching this video, after watching streams, other people posting content. Is this a game you're excited for in February? Because it certainly is for me. Share your thoughts in the comment section below, and don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll talk to you next time.